What's up, y'all? Jay from Jay's Lawn Service here. Hope everyone is doing well. I truly feel for some of y'all who are not able to work right now due to government restrictions, but just know that this will come to an end, so stay ready. That being said, I had to let a client go this week. I wanted to share this because I thought it may be helpful to those of you who are just starting out in the lawn care business and are terrified of losing a client. I used to be really hard on myself when I lost a client, but now I feel a little differently. I'll tell you why. This client was a referral from a current client who found me on Thumbtack. I don't use Thumbtack anymore, but that's a whole nother video. Anyhow, it should have been a red flag to me that my current client mentioned that they had someone who needed a gardener. It was nearing the end of the 2019 mowing season, but I told him I'd check it out and go do an estimate. So I get there, and the guy's really nice. He takes me to the back and shows me three 6-foot by 6-foot beds that are elevated about 3 feet. All three beds have thick, overgrown weeds that are about 3 to 4 feet tall. I mean, it's terrible. He says his wife wants to be able to plant a garden there. I told him that's not really what I do, but I know someone who may be able to help you out. I told him I'd have my guy give him a call. He said, cool. I said, what about your lawn? Are you looking for lawn service? He was, and later he became my client. So the first time that we were out there to mow his house this season, the 2020 season, I didn't touch those beds, even though I saw they needed serious help. The second mow of the season, we're in the backyard, and he opens the back door and sticks his head out. Can you trim those beds right there? He says with like a shooing motion of his hand. I'm standing there holding my string trimmer. I look at him, I look at the beds, I look back at him. He said, thanks, and shot me a thumbs up and disappeared back into the house. This annoyed me. Something about the way he asked me to do it didn't sit right with me. I didn't like it, but I dropped my head in frustration and walked over to those beds and begrudgingly trimmed them down. Big mistake. The next time we were out there, he didn't come outside and I left those beds alone. However, my son works with me. My son saw that I had trimmed them down the last time, so he cut those beds down without me knowing with the 21-inch Toro. The beds had now been trimmed down 2 services in a row. The next time we were there, I made sure to tell my son to leave those beds alone. We are not responsible for those. We don't get paid to tend them. So that night, I'm at my desk and I get a text from this guy with pictures of those 3 beds with overgrown weeds in them, and another picture of the side of his house where he has a 2 by 25-foot lava rock bed with weeds growing all out of them. The text says, the backyard doesn't look good after mowing if my pod areas aren't groomed. I was furious. I felt like I did a favor for him, and he just expected me to keep doing that favor over and over with no additional compensation. I didn't like how he worded his text either. It felt entitled and condescending. To make matters worse, he tried to slip in even more work that we had not discussed. A 2 by 25-foot lava rock bed full of weeds. I can't get that done with a string trimmer. I'd be flinging rocks everywhere and breaking every window around. An area like that needs to be either weeded by hand or treated with a post-emergent application. This dude has some damn nerve. Anyway, after looking at the pictures again and rereading the text, I began to get more frustrated and angry. What did this guy expect from me? What's next? Am I responsible for the flower beds in the front yard too? Am I responsible for the trees next? Then what? You want me to wash your car too? That's when I made my next mistake. Instead of giving myself time to calm down and prepare my response like a professional, I picked up the phone and called him immediately. He didn't seem too upset, but he was expecting the beds to be taken care of. After I reminded him of our first visit and how he was only paying me to service the lawn, he said very matter-of-factly, "I didn't know that." I was pissed because he obviously did know that, but I steadied my voice and I said, "How did you not know that when our first visit was about those beds in the garden?" He said again in like a very nonchalant way, "I didn't know that." Like if he were to deny all knowledge, then I would somehow just magically become responsible for all this work, this extra work, you know. I leaned into the phone and spoke very slowly and clearly. I said, "What do you expect from me? Do you expect me to trim down those 3 beds for free and hand pull weeds from your rock beds at no additional cost every time I'm there?" He said, "I expect my yard to look the way it did the last couple times y'all were out here." There it was. I was in the situation because I didn't address it when he first asked me to trim those beds down. I explained to him that I only trimmed them down because he came out and asked me to. As soon as I said that, I felt lame. It was all my fault because instead of turning off my machine and taking the time to go talk to the client and talk to him and say something like, "Hey, we only have an agreement on the lawn, but if you would like your beds taken care of, we'd be happy to do it at an additional fee." That's what I should have said. But since we never had that conversation, we were now having this one. He was now obviously upset, and he kept repeating himself. "I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know." I was pissed that he was acting this way, but as the owner of a small business, all I could say was, "Sir, if you're unhappy with our service, you can find someone else to help you." He said, "That's just what I'll do." And we both hung up. Okay, so let's talk about what just happened. I upset this client because I set an expectation and gave the customer a certain experience. Then on my next visit, I took that experience away. I did not clearly communicate with him exactly what my services were when he asked me to go beyond them. This situation reminded me of when I first got started in the business. When I first started my business, I took a whole lot more shit than I do now. I was willing to underbid jobs and deal with clients who treated me as a lesser human being just to get the work. Sometimes I was belittled and talked down to, but I took that shit because I knew I was building something special. Now I feel differently when I lose clients like this. Now I know that losing a client like this gives me the opportunity to fill that slot with a more profitable client who will treat me with the dignity and respect that I deserve. Life is too short to be unhappy and feel undervalued. Remember, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. I hope that helps someone out there. Y'all be safe. Take care.